Good morning and welcome to OSW Daily live stream. Usually 8 a.m., but this morning we're a little bit early. We're the early birds. We're the early birds today. But thank you if you're joining us. Thank you. If you are, this is your first time coming across our live stream, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell, give us that thumbs up so that YouTube knows that actually these guys are worth listening to. And if you don't like it, just give us a thumbs up so other people have to watch us and you can have a giggle at them. But
Be great
yeah,
to have
so
an algorithm tell us we're worth listening to.
it is.
That's
it
all we
is,
need
it
is a
is.
computer to tell us. We need some algorithm.
Well, Mike, as you know, many people that's how they monitor and that's how they judge things. So
Yes.
so it is important.
Yes.
It is important.
Sad time in our society. But
But
how are
there
you,
you
Steve?
go.
Good morning. Thanks
Doing
for
well.
coming on early.
Doing well. No, my pleasure. My
Bright-eyed
pleasure.
and bushy-tailed, as they say.
Bright-eyed,
Bright-eyed and
bushy-tailed.
bushy-tailed.
Yeah, I've been out. I've got my run in for the morning, for the day
Yeah.
rather. And yeah, thankfully you did send me a quick message saying, all right, we good to go early this morning. And I was like, damn, I'm not ready. But as the powers would be, whenever we do something a little,
Work it out.
we work it out. We get there, and here I am today, my bulletproof coffee,
Oh, we
enjoying.
got some Starbucks. You got a Starbucks mug there?
Well, this is a Starbucks mug, but it's more important. It's my bulletproof coffee that's in there. You know, I love my bulletproof coffee. So
You love
I
Sponsored
do.
by Bulletproof, OSW Daily. Not
It's sponsored
officially,
by. It's unofficially sponsored by Bulletproof Coffee and Sue social media. But yeah. So what are we going to talk
Right.
about today, Mike? We're gonna try and pack a little bit into this today because we came across a few articles that are just fantastic. We're going to talk about companies think about remote. So this is basically some feedback that some organizations who CEOs and leaders have sort of communicated some of their views and what their observations are. We're going to talk about Workplace 2021, getting ahead to the new normal, which is a great article. And it's, when you see the headline, you think it's, okay, what predictions for 21, but no, it's about actually, as a workplace leader, what do you need to be doing as you think about workplace in 2021 for your organization, and then how to create a workplace that actually inspires passion. And this is a nice segue in from what we discussed yesterday, Mike,
Yes.
around curiosity. So let's dig right in. And thank you for saying this is a Wall Street Journal article. Companies start to rethink, and there's a number of things that sort of came through to me on this, Mike. I only touch on one or two, and obviously you can pick up on the other ones as you see. But we often talk here about what is the information that's coming across, where is that coming from, what is their motivation, and sort of looking behind the question. There's that aspect to the ways to look at this, but there's also what are the anecdotal things that are being said. So the first thing that pops out to me is Canon Solutions Americas, right? So this is a company that provides a lot of services to many organizations on premises, right? So be it services, facility management, be it printers, be it, different devices, all the rest of it. Now, they're actually based in Melville, which is not that far from where I live, Mike. You might not know that, but
Oh, really?
yeah, so they're actually operating at the moment on a rotational basis, and 50% of the company is coming into work. Now, there's multiple ways I look at this. One is, okay, I understand why Canon is putting this out there and wanting to contribute, but 50%, and 50%, I think, my gut tells me that's where we're going to end up anyway, whenever we go through this whole thing. So again, I've got these two sides of my head looking at this information. I think 50% is a really good indicator, but I understand the motivation for Canon wanting to share this information. So I think that's something that we have to sort of think about as we evaluate the what is the future workplace and what's the future of real estate going to be, and also then if 50% of the companies coming in, and I don't think it's the same 50%, let me clarify, and that's not what's happening at Canon. It's a rotation, right? So
Right.
it's not always the same people. So therefore, we have to really manage the physical environment that people come to, but then also the remote environment where they work from. So it's how do we do those things? And it dovetails nicely into the second one, which is Chief Robotics, that basically through the pandemic, they have missed releases of products because they weren't actually physically together. And this is a real, it's a real concern for a lot of people, obviously, especially manufacturing, especially product development, innovation. And I think there's a couple of ways to look at this, Mike. I think it's I think it really is looking at. You're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Just go ahead, finish your point, and then I'll tell you why.
You'll tell me why. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So, now you've put me way off, man.
I just love your skepticism, Steve. It's just oozing from you every time you read an article that you don't necessarily agree with. I see. I know you. I know your opinions. I know where you are coming from. I know what your gut tells you. And anytime you see evidence, that's why I kind of picked this article from the Wall Street Journal, because it was about the fact that remote working isn't going to solve all of our problems and may not be the long-term solution, at least, in some industries, some organizations, some different types of roles. But you're like, look who says it. Look who's writing the article. Who's this they're interviewing? What's their agenda? Which I get. And I think that's wise. We should ask those questions, especially in today's world. You shouldn't just take whatever you get, your news, your latest, stock picks, your latest sports analysis, just get the, story behind the story. Steve's taught me that. So I appreciate that level of, is it cynicism, skepticism? I'm not sure. But yes, people have hopeful, wishful thinking. We have our biases. Companies have those biases. Their business depends on certain things happening, and hopefully they want to see the real estate market recover. They want to see people return to offices. They want to see things happen to allow their business to continue. So I definitely can see that being a driver. But also I see some of the arguments being valid, some of the ideas around collaboration and innovation. And the evidence is becoming clear that in those early days, we all were rushed home and we all set up shop in a very quick way, temporary way. And for the most part, those first couple months, everybody was functioning okay and doing well, and in fact, surprising some leaders that their organization were able to continue with such a smooth transition to almost 100% remote work. Now we're getting to the point where we've talked about it here, and I've talked about it on my live stream. It's something that it's going to be a long-term situation. So how do we address this? Are we as productive? It's not just about productivity in the sense of the outcome at the end of the day, the number of widgets you produce. It's those things about culture and collective, collaboration and relationships and coming together as human beings. And I think you and I agree that those things do not happen as effectively, as naturally, as organically, as serendipitously when we're all on Zoom or just working isolated in our homes. So I think the argument, some want to rush back sooner than others. Certainly some people's business depends on workforces getting back into the offices. But I think your last point was the one that jumps out at me. I think we should really talk about more. It's something I've been talking about on my live streams, is this new hybrid approach, this new reality, the fact that whether it's 50% or whatever the number is, a percentage of people will continue to work remotely or from home for a long time to come, as even some migrate back to offices. So how do we manage both? Who's responsible for managing both? Who takes the lead in the employee experience in the workplace, wherever that may be? The workplace is not just the physical office, it's wherever work is being done.
Well, first off, thank you for calling me. I tried my best to not be biased one way or the other. I did, and I tried to intentionally say that actually there are two sides, two ways to look at this, right? And I did so, but I do appreciate you calling me out on that. But it's I agree with you that it is going to be. We got to look at this information in two ways. One is, yes, question behind the question, but it's anecdotally, there is real evidence that we need to take and adapt and understand, right? And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to take that time to say that the 50% of what actually Canon are actually showing is probably a really true indicator. The challenges of people who are developing and innovating products not being together, aligned, is a challenge, and they do need to be thought through. However, there are many organizations that actually their development teams are not always in the same location, and whether they're in two different offices, they still manage to collaborate. So I think there's ways and to do that, right? And we're going to evolve, and we're going to learn new ways. I mean, if anything, the last few months, what we've learned about ourselves, our organizations, our teams, is how adaptable we are, how innovative we are.
True.
And that's whenever we go through, you see what CompuCom systems are doing, where they're evaluating, do we do where there's core hours, where, there are core times whenever teams come into the office. There's time when teams are going to be together. I think it's a great idea. Gallup studies show that actually the most productive teams are the teams that are in the office 2 to 3 days per week. And the reason for that, the 2-3 days they're in the office together, is they're there together for collaborative work. Then that other time is actually for their focus work, their heads down work. Because if you were to assess what each individual team within an organization does, you're going to find that actually a large percentage of what people do is actually solo work. And
That's right.
but a lot of the innovation comes from that solo work, but then bringing the solo thought and ideas that have come from that deep thinking to the team in a collaborative form is where it really comes from. So yes, I do have my biases, of course, but my biases is more of it's just because of my opinion, right, and what I think the future will be, and that's where my bias obviously comes from. But again, I do challenge myself, and I try to challenge myself to think differently, to bring different voices and hear from different rationales. So again, thank you for calling me out, Mike.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
No. I know. No. I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't disagree with anything you just said, and I agree that why drive through that traffic, and why especially in a pandemic, risk your health to sit in an office and do work that you could do just as effectively from home. Yeah. I'm talking about the longer term solution here, and I do think it will be a hybrid approach. There will be some flexibility, but we do not want to think that a year from now, 2 years from now, we're still going to be where we are today, and we need to begin preparing for that. And that's what you were saying as well. And I think we're going to just kind of have to map things out and be adaptable, which is what human beings hopefully do best. We'll see. I think there's a near term, another topic for another day, a near term situation we're dealing with where I worry about the isolation, and the mental health and the struggles with careers, and especially young people,
absolutely.
Being inhibited during this near-term crisis. It's dragging on, and it's impacting people, not just their careers, but their personal well-being. And I think we need to address that too. But that's something we've talked about before, and we'll talk about again. For
sure. And then segueing that in nicely, when we think about that short term or that medium term that you were just discussing there, Mike, we've pulled up here, Vic's article, Workplace 2021, get ahead of the new normal.
Bangia.
There you go, man. There you go. You're a man.
Friend of the Workplace Innovator podcast, that's for sure.
There you go. Nah, it's cool. This is a really nice article that he's written. And so when I first saw the headline, I thought Workplace 2021, here's a predictor of what's going to happen in 2021. Who's prepared to risk what they're going to predict for 2021 given where we are today? But actually, this is a really, really insightful article, because in essence what Vic's looking to do is challenge us to think about, well, how do you assess what your organization and your offices all around your portfolio need, and how you actually going to deliver what they need? Understanding that every location is going to be different, every business is going to be different. Yes, there are industry data out there, industry data available, but actually what matters for your organization? How are you going to get at what your organization needs? And he starts with the employees got to be the center. Your employees at your organization that do the work that you need them to do, what do they need to be productive? How are you going to get to that? How are you going to then deliver that? And then he goes into the data. So how are you collecting your data? How are you using that data to then drive those decisions? And then obviously the nature of the work. What actually is going on? What are they physically doing? Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, the focus and the collaboration work, right? How do people do that? How do people in your organization do that? If you look at your organization, office to office, it's very different. The tasks are very different. So how do you assess those things? And he's put forward a couple of questions that everyone should be asking themselves. So what is your company's strategy to leverage technology, data to arrive at better, more accurate decisions that align with your business? It's fantastic. It's really, really cool. And the second one, what are your return to work plans? Are you prepared? Are you incorporating benchmarking for success? And he gives us some benchmarking there to use. So again, it's a really important point that Vic's making here. It doesn't matter what the industry is saying. evaluate what your peers do so you learn their insights, but no other organization is the same as yours. No one has the same portfolio. No other company is made up of the same people. Therefore, your responsibility is to understand the people, the tasks, the functions that they do, and then deliver an environment that allows them to be their most productive.
Yeah, no one size fits all,
Right.
For sure. And Vic is a thoughtful guy. I've known him for years, and I look forward to talking to him again soon. Verum Consulting. Truth is verum in Latin for truth. So he's looking for the answers, and I earmarked this article. It was yesterday or the day before when he published it. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet, but I look forward to doing so. But so much good stuff here, because you're right. Vic has always had that employee end user occupant in mind. He's a real estate expert. He's been a practitioner for many years at big corporations. He works with big clients. So he's seeing a lot of stuff here, and I can't wait to catch up with him, because I had him on my live stream, I think on the second or third week, so way back, 3-4 months ago, and a lot has changed since then. And now he's in that mode, as we are, of thinking to the future. And again, we can't predict 2021. We can't predict the future. No one. This is a great quote I heard the other day. About expertise and the fact that you and I talk to a lot of experts in workplace and real estate, and we always look for them for advice, but there is no one who is an expert on the future. And I love that quote, because it's unfair to put that type of predictive expertise tag on someone and expect them to guide us into something we just can never know. We can look at the data, though, and that's what Vic is all about, data driven, and then make some decisions. It's about these models. Think of it when we're talking about, the medical scientists trying to be expert in helping public health decisions. They'll be the first to admit that all these models are flawed and they don't predict the future. And we've seen the models we saw about the spread of the virus have been nothing but wrong, but they're useful because it's a matter of using them to guide decisions, which then hopefully will sway or adjust the outcomes in the long term. But to say, hey, here's the model, it predicts this many cases, this many deaths, all that type of thing, just look back in time and you'll see that all those models were wrong, and no one said they were going to be 100% correct. In fact, they don't expect them to be. They just expect them to help their decision making. So same here in real estate decisions. Again, I mentioned it yesterday. I don't envy leaders who have to make big decisions around leases and portfolios and space and all that type of thing. But Vic's got a lot of great advice here. I definitely think people should check the link below and read this article, because I'm all about setting a benchmark and then tracking your progress with data and helping to adjust along the way. Once the data changes, the data sets come in and we see new information. Again, to draw parallels to the health situation. As the models change, we need to adjust our behavior and try to our way through this long journey together.
Yeah, no, it is great. It's great. So then as we sort of like move through then, Mike, we talked yesterday about curiosity, right? And we talked at length how, the benefits of people being curious, the attributes, their habits. And this article then, sort of the next one we want to talk about, kind of nicely dovetails into that. So how to create a workplace that actually inspires passion. Right, so you think curiosity, you think passion. Yeah, see the way I say that? I built it up.
It's one of my questions. When I interview people, I'm like, what are you passionate about? What are you most passionate about?
Yeah, and to be honest, it's almost like very similar to that. What are you curious about, right? Because in essence, one comes from the other, right? We looked at the habits of people who have curious minds. It's very similar if you think about those people who have a passion. What is it, a passion, right? If I said to you anything about Star Wars, your eyes light up. I'm
so ready. Just talk about it.
Look at the big smile on your face, But in essence, so as we think about, we think about some of the data points that we talked about in our first piece. Then we talk about workplace 2021 and how to get after those things. So then how do you actually create an environment that actually inspires passion? And it's a workplace, and workplace can be anywhere. It can be in an office, it can be in Starbucks, it can be at your home. It's just a place that work takes place, right?
Right.
So how do we create that? And this article talks about the Deloitte Center and how they've identified 3 attributes for people who have a particular form of passion. And there's three things that they have identified. So it's a long-term commitment. So for organizations, how do you identify those people who have a long-term commitment to whatever specialty or whatever thing they're doing? So you think yourself, Mike, I'm going to pick on you a little bit here. You know, what you do for iOffice, you do it because, one, you love talking to people, you love learning, you love asking questions, you're really good at extracting information from people, you're passionate about that, and you could do that all day long. And then you do your editing, and you put together your stories, you curate an experience for people. You love that, and you, as I said, you could do that all day long, right? And it's not really. No one has to pull you out of bed. I mean, granted, I have to pull you out of bed to get you to do this each morning, but other than that, when it comes from you, right, and it's the same for me, right? Getting up here to talk to you, right? No one has to do that for me. It's passionate about it, right? So how do we create that, and how do we identify those people who have passions for whatever skills, whatever the job is at work, and then how do we identify those people who seek out new ways to do stuff, right? You and I have conversations here all the time. How can we do things differently? How can we improve, one, what we do here in this talk, but also, you at iOffice and what you do, how can you do better? How can you do things differently to improve, to help, one, your audience, but help your organization whenever you do your live streams or you do your podcasts? And the same thing for me. All this I do at Open Source Workplace makes me so much better at what I do at NASDAQ, right? And vice versa. So it's like, so how do we do that? How do we always learn? How do you identify those people who have those learning traits? And then it's connection, right? How do you help people address and connect, so they can actually address the challenges that may be ahead of them?
Yeah, what was the biggest challenge you took away from this article? For me, it was the long-term perspective. How tough is it, especially during a pandemic, to have that long-term vision, whatever you're doing? And that was the part that I was like really feeling for people. And I know that there's people out there. First of all, there's many who are out of work, unfortunately, right now, and they'd love to apply their passions to an organization and make that match. And I certainly hope and pray they can come up with a place for them to be, and if not, to create their own thing, at least in the near term, to keep their minds active and creativity flowing. In fact, you and I have had these conversations offline. I won't go into it much here, but the fact that by just doing what we do as a side hustle, as a passion project, as something that's unrelated to our work, our income, our organization, it will lead to better things in your career. And I can always say that briefly here, but maybe we should dedicate a whole episode to that, because I think people are out there looking for that type of inspiration these days. And talk about long-term commitment. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing podcasting since 2016, coming up on 4 years this fall. And it's amazing to me that, it is something I've been able to, turn into a career. And now my job is the same and aligned pretty closely with my passion. And that's something I think I wish for everyone. It's not going to always be 100%, and it's not 100% for me. There's things I have to do as an employee of iOffice that aren't, a passion of mine, but they're part of the job and responsibility, and I'm happy to do them just as you are. But to be able to find at least a certain amount of alignment with what you're best at, where your skills, your talents are being utilized in a way that you feel valued. That's what it's all about to me.
It's a great way to sort of, you just tied that knot at the end there. It is all about, right, what do you feel like you're learning as an individual? What do you feel like you're contributing, and what are the experiences, right? Those three things, I always come back to those as I sort of assess, I ask myself those questions. I know you ask yourself those questions, and I always ask my team, what this year, these last few months, what have you learned? What have you contributed? What has been your experience? And what do you want in those three strings going forward? And how do we best help you deliver those things and get those things? So
and that's the thing. Ask questions. Ask the questions both ways. As an employee to your employer, ask how can I contribute better? And then if you're an employer and you've got this distributed workforce right now, maybe not fully feeling connected or utilizing their talents, how can we better bring ideas to the table, think creatively outside the box, create those moments of spark and inspiration, and we'll all be happier for it. And again, I'll end my thought with the Simon Sinek quote about optimism. Again, it's not about positivity per se. Some days are better than others. You're going to have some bad days and some good days on this long journey, but optimism as he described it, was looking down that long, dark tunnel and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and saying, I'm optimistic we're going to get through this thing. And whatever your situation is, whether it's job situation or just living through this pandemic or your current career, maybe where you're misaligned, it's like, I know that there's better things on the horizon. I'm going to stay optimistic. And some days I'm not going to be positive. Some days are going to be negative. But at the same time, the next day will get better because I have that optimistic long-term view.
No, that's great. And if you think, you take what you just said, Mike, and you apply it to you and I, there's days where I'm down, you're down, but we help bring each other and bring balance to each other, right?
Absolutely.
And we've talked at length, previously about this, the fact that we do this each day. We basically commit to each other that we're going to do this. Therefore, we feel that we need to do it, but then when we do it, we feel so much better and so much more productive days. And the days that we don't do this. So the lesson here, I think, for those who are listening who have managed to get all the way through, one, thank you for getting all the way through, and I appreciate that. But the real lesson here is, find someone who holds you accountable that actually is going to share information. You're going to have a conversation with. It's going to stimulate these ideas, these concepts, and this drive within you. And I just leave it there, I think.
That's great advice. Great advice, Steve. Yeah. And thank you for doing that for me. Getting me out of bed this morning early. I was looking for your confirmation that we're starting early today, and it didn't come. And you know where my mind goes? Oh, well, maybe he'll cancel today. That'll be a good thing. But no, it's never a good thing. It's always great when you get together and you do this. And even if you don't feel like it at first, I'm so glad we had this conversation, as I am every day.
I appreciate your honesty in saying that. But also, I don't know about you, but when you have that little voice in the back of your head says, no, don't do it. But then you go ahead and you start and you then drive through and you finish it. The accomplishment feels that much better. Don't you think?
Totally. Absolutely. It's fighting that little, what I call the default setting, our natural position of whatever it is, negativity or woe is me, or poor me thinking, or I just lazy, getting the ball rolling. You got to get that big stone moving down the hill, and then the momentum picks up and gets going, and now we're set for a great day ahead. So I look forward to talking to you every day, Steve, and I thank you for doing this.
No, thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day.
You too. Peace out.